Welcome to British Focus, the channel where we dive into the most pressing and controversial issues facing the UK today. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to join our fast-growing community of informed and engaged viewers. Your support helps us uncover the stories that truly matter. Today, we're bringing you another shocking example of the growing tensions in our streets. Disturbing footage has surfaced from Portsmouth, where a group of ANTIFA thugs launched an unprovoked attack on elderly local patriots. These individuals were simply on their way to counter-protest a Palestine demonstration when they were met with aggression. This kind of behavior is not only disgraceful but raises serious concerns about freedom of speech and the right to peaceful assembly in our country. In this video, we will break down the footage and provide our reaction, analyzing the implications of such actions on our communities. But that's not all. Stay tuned as we also cover the latest headlines from across the country, from rising council taxes to the decisions impacting millions of British households. Make sure to stick around, share your thoughts in the comments, and let's get the conversation started.
Shame on you! Shame on you! Shame on you! Shame on you!
You're supporting
It's
genocide.
disgusting! There is no genocide!
Hamas gets the money.
It's their land! Go away! Go away! Get out! Go to your Off you go! Get out! Off you go! How dare you! How dare you!
Go away! Go away!
You do your thing!
I mean, go away! Go away!
Go on, menace! It's alright, I've got her face! Why are you being a menace? Why are you coming over here all menacing? What are you being a menace? Pushing people about for?
You're gonna fuck?
Phone the police, someone! Can someone phone the police, please? This is Antifa, they've just turned up, none of us are armed, none of us are aggressive, and they're just being disgusting. You alright, Marie? Yeah, I'm fine. No points. What are you doing? Coming over and being all aggressive for? Who's aggressive? The Nazis are aggressive. Nazis are aggressive. You're fascist. Are you having that? Whatever's going on, look at you. Look at you. You don't scare me. I'm not scared of you. It's not sunny. They're blocking the sun out. What have you got your sunglasses on for? This whole thing has been recorded. This whole thing. Look at them, all in their masks, all menacing. Who do they think they are? I've got boys bigger than you. Look at you. Who got you dressed this morning? Don't ever wash. Honestly.
Aggressive lefties. Aggressive lefties.
Yep, I'm going to stop filming now because I'm phoning the police. Shameful. Why don't you? We were here first, if we're going to be silly and petty. We were here first. And you came over all aggressive, start throwing your weight about as if you own the place. And actually, you don't. So off you go, princess. Well, certainly not you, Fiona. How dare you? Do you think you are? Get on their way.
Sorry?
Yeah, isn't it? Yeah, lovely. Thank you. Yeah. Your grandmother and everything.
Are you passionate about it?
Stop now, but it's all on camera. It's all on camera.
What we witnessed in Portsmouth is nothing short of shocking and deeply unsettling. The footage shows a group of Antifa activists aggressively targeting elderly local patriots who were on their way to a counter-protest against a Palestine demonstration. Let's break down what's really happening here, and more importantly, what it says about the state of free expression and civil discourse in our country today. First off, the aggression displayed in this footage is outrageous. You can hear the shouting, the insults, and the sheer hostility directed at individuals who posed no threat and were simply exercising their democratic right to peaceful protest. "Shame on you," one man can be heard saying, and frankly, he's right. What kind of society are we becoming when people feel entitled to physically and verbally attack others for holding differing views? It's not just an attack on these individuals, it's an attack on the principles of freedom and respect that underpin our democracy. Now, let's talk about the hypocrisy on display here. The very group that claims to stand against oppression and violence is seen behaving in the exact manner they supposedly oppose. Antifa turned up unprovoked, masked and menacing, ready to intimidate and escalate tensions. None of the counter-protesters were armed, nor did they act aggressively, as noted in the video. Yet, Antifa members felt justified in acting like bullies, shouting down and surrounding people much older than themselves. How does that align with any notion of justice or fairness? One of the most heartbreaking moments in the footage is when a woman named Marie is asked if she's all right. You can hear the exhaustion in her voice as she brushes it off, saying, "Yeah, no point." That single statement speaks volumes. It reflects the growing sense of futility among ordinary people who just want to stand up for their beliefs without fear of being attacked or vilified. How have we reached a point where standing firm on your principles makes you a target for abuse? Let's also discuss the audacity of Antifa's actions. One of them yells, "Go away! Get out!" as if they have the authority to dictate who can or cannot be present in public spaces. Another individual aggressively confronts one of the counter-protesters, asking, "Why are you being a menace?" But who's the real menace here? The ones quietly attending a counter-protest, or the group masked up and shouting threats? The irony is almost laughable if it weren't so concerning. The atmosphere captured in the footage is tense and chaotic, and for what? Because a group of people had a different opinion? This isn't just about a single incident in Portsmouth. It's part of a worrying trend where dissenting voices are shouted down or, worse, physically confronted. We've seen this happen time and again across the country, and it's high time we start asking some serious questions about where we're headed. To everyone watching this, think about what this means for you and your community. If we allow this kind of behavior to go unchecked, what's stopping it from happening in your town, on your streets, or at your protests? The reality is, when aggression becomes the norm, everyone loses. People are no longer debating or exchanging ideas, they're just shouting at each other, or worse, fighting. And that's not a society we should accept. But let's be clear, the blame doesn't lie solely with the individuals involved. This kind of behavior is being fueled by a broader culture that tolerates, and sometimes even celebrates, intolerance as long as it's directed at the right targets. When did we start accepting that violence and intimidation are acceptable forms of political expression? And more importantly, how do we put an end to it? As we wrap up this segment, let's take a moment to reflect. What we saw in Portsmouth is a symptom of a deeper issue, one that demands our attention. It's about more than just this one incident. It's about reclaiming the values of respect, dialogue, and mutual understanding that are essential to any functioning democracy. If we don't, incidents like this will only become more frequent and more damaging. To our community here at British Focus, I urge you to stay engaged, stay informed, and most importantly, stay vocal. Share your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think about what happened in Portsmouth? How should we as a society respond to this growing climate of hostility? Your voice matters, and together, we can make a difference. If you haven't already, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future content. We'll keep bringing you the stories that matter, stories that challenge, and stories that inspire. In other news, millions of households across England are bracing for an unprecedented financial squeeze as local councils propose council tax increases far beyond what most would consider reasonable, or even legal under normal circumstances. This staggering development sees more than 4 million households facing hikes of up to 5 times the usual limit, as struggling local authorities exploit loopholes to address their financial woes. It's a move that raises serious questions about the fairness of our tax system and the competence of those in charge of managing public finances. Let's take a closer look at the numbers, which are nothing short of jaw-dropping. 8 councils across the country are proposing tax increases ranging from 9.99% to an astonishing 25% starting this April. To put that into perspective, the government's standard cap on council tax increases is set at 4.99%, a figure already high enough to stretch many household budgets. Yet these councils have found a way to bypass this cap by threatening to issue Section 114 notices, effectively declaring themselves bankrupt. This allows them to seek ministerial approval for drastic tax hikes without needing to consult local voters through a referendum, as would typically be required. Perhaps the most shocking example comes from the Royal Borough of Windsor and Maidenhead, where council leaders are pushing for a 25% increase in council tax. Yes, you heard that right, a quarter of your bill added on top. If approved, this would be the largest increase seen in England in over 20 years, impacting more than 154,000 residents, including those living on the Windsor estate. Yes, even the royal family themselves would be affected. For the average household, this hike translates to an additional £451 per year, a figure that is simply staggering during a time when many are already struggling to cope with the cost of living crisis. This isn't just a Windsor problem, though. Labour-run Birmingham City Council, already mired in financial difficulty, is considering a second consecutive 9.99% increase, potentially adding £400 to household bills over 2 years. Meanwhile, Bradford Council is seeking permission for a 15% rise, which would see residents paying an extra £170 annually. Other councils, including Hampshire, North Somerset, and Slough, are following suit, with proposed increases ranging from 10% to 15%, affecting millions of people across the country. In every case, the justification is the same. These councils claim they have no other choice but to pass the burden on to taxpayers to fill the gaping holes in their budgets. But let's pause for a moment and consider the bigger picture. Why are these councils in such dire straits to begin with? Local authorities argue that they are dealing with unprecedented financial pressures, from the rising costs of social care to the fallout from the pandemic. Some even claim that central government funding has not kept pace with inflation or the growing demand for services, leaving them with little room to maneuver. Yet, when you dig a little deeper, it becomes clear that poor financial management and reckless spending have also played a significant role. How many of these councils have squandered taxpayer money on vanity projects or mismanaged resources? And now, it's ordinary families who are being forced to pay the price for their mistakes. The backlash from residents has been both immediate and fierce, and rightly so. At a time when households are already grappling with skyrocketing energy bills, rising food prices, and stagnant wages, these tax increases feel like a slap in the face. As one resident from Windsor put it, this is a huge amount to increase tax by during a cost of living crisis. It's heartbreaking for many and a very drastic increase. And they're not alone in their frustration. Across the country, people are questioning how councils can justify such dramatic hikes while failing to rein in their own out-of-control spending. Even the Taxpayers Alliance has weighed in, condemning these proposals as a blatant attempt to shift the burden of financial mismanagement onto hard-working families. Local taxpayers are fed up with having to pick up the tab for reckless councils, said spokesperson Benjamin Elks. While households across the country tighten their belts, local authorities continue to squander cash on pointless pet projects. To make matters worse, the mechanism being used to push through these tax increases, Section 114 notices, is itself deeply controversial. Essentially, it allows councils to declare themselves bankrupt and bypass normal restrictions, provided they receive approval from central government. While this might seem like a necessary lifeline for struggling councils, it also sets a dangerous precedent. What's to stop other councils from exploiting this loophole in the future, effectively holding taxpayers hostage to their financial demands? It's also worth noting that the impact of these tax hikes will vary significantly across the country, exacerbating existing inequalities. In wealthier areas, residents may be better equipped to absorb the additional costs, but in poorer communities, these increases could push already struggling families over the edge. The Local Government Association has admitted as much, acknowledging that council tax raises different amounts in different parts of the country unrelated to need. In other words, this system is fundamentally flawed, and these proposed increases will only make things worse. So where does this leave us? On the one hand, it's clear that local councils are facing significant challenges and need additional funding to maintain essential services. On the other hand, Passing the burden on to taxpayers without addressing the root causes of financial mismanagement is not a sustainable solution. What we need is greater accountability and transparency from our local authorities, as well as a more equitable system of funding that doesn't disproportionately punish those who can least afford it. To everyone watching, I urge you to take action. Reach out to your local councillors and MPs, voice your concerns, and demand answers. Why should ordinary families be made to pay for the failures of their leaders? And if your council is proposing an excessive tax increase, hold them accountable. Ask them how they're managing their budgets, and insist on seeing evidence that every penny of taxpayer money is being spent wisely. As always, we want to hear from you. What do you think about these proposed council tax increases? Do you believe they're justified, or do you see them as yet another example of poor leadership and misplaced priorities? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let's get this conversation started. If you haven't already, make sure to like this video and subscribe to British Focus for more updates and analysis on the issues that matter most to you. Together, we can hold those in power accountable and fight for a fairer, more transparent system for everyone. Thank you for watching, and let's keep the dialogue going.